This segment of DelmarvaLife is sponsored by Key Financial Services.
The new year is usually when we promise ourselves we'll get healthier, eat better, move more, stress less. But there's another kind of wellness that can have just as much impact on our day-to-day lives, our finances.
That's right. January's Financial Wellness Month. And whether you're trying to build an emergency fund, tackle debt, or just make sense of a market that seems to change by the minute, this is a great time to take a closer look at where you stand and where you are headed. So to help us break down some simple practical ways to start the year on a stronger financial footing are Colin Maycumber, an investment advisor, and Kristen Cohen, the operations director of Key Financial Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good to see you again.
Tell us why this time of year is a good time for folks to really focus on their finances.
Well, it's the start of the calendar year. It's always kind of a good time for New Year's resolutions. But also you start to get those tax documents that have, your year-end numbers, where it makes it a little easier to sit down and go through a budget. And from there, probably some year-end credit card statements, bills, things like that, and see, what are your expenses each month? How much is discretionary income and how much is going to savings, either short-term or for retirement.
So let's talk about emergency funds because we all should have them. So what is a realistic goal when it comes to saving for emergencies?
So an emergency fund, we're looking at something that's covering your emergency expenses. So your mortgage or your rent payment, car insurance, health insurance, and your basic utilities all fall into that. And ideally, we'd like you to have 3 to 6 months built up to cover those expenses so that if something unforeseen happens, we make sure that there's money there, that those items are protected.
Mm-hmm. So for folks who don't know, what does a healthy debt to income ratio look like?
So statistically speaking, they say anything 36% or below is a healthy debt to income ratio. That's more on the lending side if you're going to get a mortgage or a loan. Obviously, the lower that number is, the healthier it is. That just means, less of that monthly or weekly paycheck is going to just pay off debt. But it's a good starting place to see, what you really are spending when you're looking at that budget, just kind of get an idea of how much each week is going out the door before you're paying yourself or starting to save and build for retirement.
Sure. So some people may be watching and saying, I need to really get serious about saving. So what's a realistic first step for building a savings?
It's going to change for everyone. Everyone's financial situation is different, as we all know. But start small, something attainable, and just make a goal for yourself. So it could be as simple as $25 a week or a paycheck, and set it aside. You want to make sure that it's liquid and accessible if you need it, but not too convenient that it's mixed in with your everyday money and can be used in conjunction with something you see on the fly. So just really setting some goals for yourself and knowing what to expect and making sure that that's something that's attainable for your budget, that's affordable, and you can actually adhere to that and move forward.
Sure.
So these days, it seems like the market, like a roller coaster up and down. What's your advice for folks to really stay focused long term?
So, long term, there's a ideology out there called dollar cost averaging. That just says if you put in the same amount on a consistent basis, long term, you're going to reap the advantages of the market. So, everybody wants to put money in the market when things are going good and there's those big returns out there. But in reality, you always hear buy low, sell high. So with dollar cost averaging, that's with salary deduction for 401ks is a good example of that. Each paycheck, a certain amount goes in to those set investments. When there is a correction or recession, you're essentially just getting those shares on a discount, because they're down 15, 20%. And as long as, you're not retiring in the near future, that's a buying opportunity. Obviously, that changes as we start to get closer to and into retirement, where our focus kind of shifts more towards the protection and distribution. rather than putting money in and trying to grow that.
Right.
Okay. And of course, if you have any questions, you have the advisors at Key Financial Services to help you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kristen and Colin, for coming in today.
Thank you.
And we'll have some additional information on our website, DelmarvaLife.com.